Welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, a weekly show helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. Today, episode 348, Consciousness Cleanser. And now, Experience of the Soul.
Hello, my dear friends, and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm also lovingly known as RCA. I welcome you to the show today and also want to invite my producer in. He is so amazing, talented, funny, brilliant. I could just go on.
Oh, I got them all.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast. This is episode 347, Consciousness Cleanser. We're doing a consciousness cleanse today. It's a cleanse.
Well, yes, if you can, those of you watching on video, you know I got a cleanse of my own. All of my hair is gone. I had long hair, and now that's over. For now. So, yes. New year,
that always does
new me.
Makes you feel like a whole new person, doesn't it? I mean, yeah.
Yes, there's positives and negatives. So, yes, we won't go down that road right now. But yes, but it felt good, I have to say, to release the extra hair and not have as much to look after. It's a great way to start the year feeling free and easy and fun. And so I love that. And that really gets us into the show for today quite easily, right, Sean? But I know we have a couple of shout outs too.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to do our location shout out. So we had
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, okay.
Villa de Totoro in Cordoba, Argentina.
Wow, very nice.
So friends, bienvenidos. We welcome you to the show, and we're honored really that you listen. We looked up that area in Argentina, which of course is in like the bottom half of South America, and the beauty there. I was really struck by it, and so bless you for listening. I don't know which how big your town is. When we looked, it looked fairly small, but we also know those things don't always get updated on Wikipedia. But anyway, we're honored and blessed that you listen. And all I can say is muchísimas gracias. Yes, thank you so much.
And our social media shout out today goes out to Mimi Marie.
Oh, yes, Mimi Marie, thank you so much. I love your engagement on social media. And I'm not sure, Mimi, if you've joined the Mighty Networks yet, but I want to invite you into that too, because if you like my work, which I know you do, I want to invite you to join us over there, and really all our listeners. But Mimi, thank you so much for staying connected, for lifting us up with your comments. It always helps us to know, that it's appreciated and loved. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And with that, welcome everybody officially to episode 347. This is our Consciousness Cleanser.
Consciousness Cleanser. Well, it was funny. When I was a little kid, my godfather was the minister at the church where we grew up, and his name was Paul Harwell. He had a big booming voice, and he taught at Oxford in the summers. He actually taught American history at Oxford in the summers, even though he was at this tiny little Red Oak United Methodist. But one day he said, he got up and said, "Be the Clorox of society." And I thought it was so funny. And what he was meaning is to be as clean and clear as possible in our vision, as clean and clear as possible in our soul and in our love and in our actions. He always had a funny way and a very tangible way that we could grab on to his message. So today, Consciousness Cleanser, the reason I want to talk about this is because we've talked so much about consciousness, and we've talked a lot about release. And this is even going to be on a topic we've touched on recently, but I think it's super, super important, because the clearer you get about your consciousness and your direction, you're going to want to participate in the Consciousness Cleanser to a varying degree on a pretty regular basis. The reason for that is that we are so inundated with negativity. I mean, really, our whole culture in most places actually now is built on negativity. And I find the addiction to social media, frankly, making that worse. And so cleansing our consciousness of negativity, of images, of thoughts, of beliefs, and even our homes, as we've talked about, it is an effort. It is an effort. But what you're going to discover, the deeper the work goes, it's a pleasure to do this cleansing work because you know how good it feels after. It's funny because the other day I was doing a bunch of laundry and I had, washed up everything and I washed my sheets. And I remember when I got in bed at night, it smelled so good and so fresh. And I thought, oh, I love when I'm in this clean environment. And I thought, oh, it's the same for our consciousness. It's like everything feels refreshed. Everything feels good when we go through the effort and the discipline to cleanse our consciousness. So what I want to tell you, friends, the freedom that's gained from the deeper inner work is absolutely worth it. Sometimes you're going to be called to do new things and step outside your comfort zone. Sometimes you're going to be called to release and cleanse. And what's so amazing is the more we release and cleanse, the more new, good, holy, sacred, fun, and joy that's available to us. So, consciousness cleanser is the topic for today. What needs to be cleansed from my consciousness is the question I want you to be thinking about. So, as I take a sip of my tea, be thinking about, what do I need to cleanse from my consciousness? And if you don't know, hang in here. Hang in here with me. Just wait a moment. I think that discernment is a big, very important aspect of knowing what needs to be cleansed. Discernment. Being conscious of what your thought process is, what your actions are, and even getting in the observer self so you can see that. So we did, and Sean, we may want to put in the show notes a link to the observer self, because until you can observe yourself and your own behavior, you are going to unnecessarily hurt yourself or others. And it's a sad state of affairs that we see online today with people lashing out. I see it of all faiths. I see it of all race, color, and even age, that people will say and do things online they would never do and say in person. Some would, though. But and what I want you to know is this is not our highest self. This is not our highest self. We're not meant to do things like that. If we're doing things like that, we are largely unconscious. And I know if you listen to this show, you're trying to become conscious. You're a spiritual being. Maybe you are in a church. I have been told recently, many people that listen are Catholic. Many are Protestant. Some are what are considered New Thought. Some are New Age. Some are even Muslim. So the principles I'm talking about are for people of all faiths trying to rise higher in their own awareness. As a matter of fact, our next show is called Rise Higher, because all the shows are connected. All the shows are connected. Each one follows another, follows another, follows another. There is a reason and an order to things we're doing. So the freedom gained from the deeper work, the deeper soul work, I should say, is sometimes hard to describe, but the freedom you get once you get there is amazing. I've had a couple of situations recently where I have really felt this sense of soul freedom, and it has felt so good. It has felt so good. So I want to talk about that, and I want us to think about how we are getting in our own way of our next steps. And let me just, I want to give you some very specific, they might seem small ways that I'm working with it. And they are small ways. And I think sometimes on the spiritual journey, we get the idea, and a lot of self-help authors put this idea in our minds. If we just do 1, 2, and 3, maybe 4 and 5, in other words, here's 5 steps to happiness, everything in life will be perfect. We'll never have another problem. And we're just going to, go off into our own utopia. And what we've learned on the spiritual journey is that is not the case at all. What happens is we have a new awareness. We plateau for a little bit. We not plateau in a bad way. We integrate, we rest in this new consciousness. We get, used to it, and then time to grow again. Well, what I've seen happen in my practice and in my churches, when people have to grow again, they think they're doing something wrong spiritually. And I love to reassure them, no, this is exactly right. This is what the journey is. And so it's not, I had one big awareness and I never have to work again. It's like I have an awareness, my consciousness expands, I get used to that consciousness, and then it's time to grow again. And it usually happens, not in this grandiose way, but in these very small actions, these very small ways where we see we are limiting our own growth, where we are limiting our own awareness. And I'll give you an example. I know I gave one recently about jujitsu where I was apologizing, and my coach said, "You really don't have to apologize. You're learning." Well, I realized too, I was taking into my lessons this idea because I had videotaped some of my jujitsu lessons, because as you video your lessons and go back, which is what I do, I go back and I study them, you see just how much you don't know, especially in comparison to the professor. And so I started making up a story. The story was not true. I started making up a story that I'll never get there. I started making up a story that it was taking me forever to learn something. I was making up a story that, what if I'm just not good enough anyway? And even as I'm saying those things, the energy of those statements is a lower vibration. I don't know if you can feel it through the airwaves, but I can almost feel a tightening in my chest as I said those things. It was like, oh, I'm just not good enough. And so the false belief that was running my program, as I like to say, that false belief was from something that I'm sure from long ago, this belief that I adopted that I'm not good enough, that frankly, I'm just not enough, period. And if I work hard, and if I can be good enough, if I can do good enough, if I can be spiritual enough, if I can be strong enough, if I can learn enough, then I'll be okay. So simply reflecting on a jujitsu lesson, looking at my videos, I started realizing I had a thought of not good enough, I'm not going to do it, blah, 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 all those things. And so I thought, I am just going to check this out. So as I went to my next lesson, I was just holding the question in my mind. Is this something I need to keep doing? I love it. But am I wasting my time, my money, my energy? Like, should I keep doing this? Should I keep doing this? And it was interesting because I had been studying with 2 coaches. One was the master there, and another is one of his students. Of course, they're both black belts, but the master is many, many levels higher of a black belt. I don't know how many degrees, but he's way up there. And I'm just a blue belt, but I recently got a stripe. So I'm a blue belt with 1 stripe, for those of you listening who understand that. If you don't understand it, don't worry about it. It doesn't mean anything to you in your world, but it means a lot if you do jujitsu. You work months for that 1 little stripe. And so I thought, as I go into this lesson with this belief, because now the belief is conscious. So friends, are you hearing me on this? The belief had to become conscious for me to cleanse it, for me to heal it, for me to move it on out. So once I saw that belief, and it happened in a millisecond when I was just laying there, I was really tired one day and I was going through some of my videos and I noticed the thought process. And it was so out of alignment with my intention for the morning, with what I know to be true on the soul level. But here is my mind still thinking it. So there was a dissonance within my very own soul that I could identify, that I could feel, that I could lift up and go, this feels true right now, but I know it can't be true. Can it? You know? And so I said, I'm not going to try to talk myself into anything. I don't want to force myself in jiu-jitsu, but I also don't want to carry this false belief. This is not healthy either. So as I said, I went into the gym. I held that thought, saying to myself, do I need to release this? Am I not good enough? I am just going to put out to the universe, God, show me, universe, show me, through my lesson today, through my interactions, show me what it is I need to know to keep moving forward on this journey. And not 15 minutes after I set that intention, it was so interesting. I walked in and my instructor said, oh, we've got a lot to work on today. And I said, oh, I know. And I was thinking, oh, I know we have a lot to work on because last time I didn't do very well. And I said, yeah, I know. And she said, well, I can't wait to see what you did with the other professor. I don't think it's important to name him online, but she said, I can't wait to see what you've been doing with the other professor because he said he was really impressed by how quickly you learned things. And I thought, what? So not only was my belief that I'm too slow, I can't do it, what am I thinking? That the opposite feedback was there from the top teacher in the place. So my own false belief was telling me a story that as much spiritual work as I've done, as much teaching, as much development, as much psychological work as I've done, I still wasn't 100% sure. But the healing part was, rather than believing this self-defeating thought, because you can see how self-defeating it was. Something I adore, I was saying, should I quit this? Am I living in a dream world? I want to be in reality. I don't want to think I'm better than I am, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to get hurt either. Jiu-jitsu is a very intense sport. Turns out it was a false belief. Turns out it was a self-defeating thought, and it was starting to transition and translate into my behaviors. Right. So, friends, see how one thought of not enough was running an entire story about something I love to do, about something that brings me joy and connection in the larger community. It brings me support and encouragement from my coaches. And just today, I sent them a gratitude because an instructor had left, and I said, I'm sure there's stress behind the scenes, but you guys are handling this with such grace. Thank you so much for all you do. I just want to honor you. I want to support you. I want to lift you up and let you know how much you impact my life. Thank you. And, of course, you can imagine I got beautiful responses back. So being able to identify my self-defeating thought that was becoming a behavior, it was almost becoming an intention. I'm going to come in here and do bad. That what was becoming that got turned around. I got to reframe my thought. And what I noticed in that lesson, I did and I felt better. I was able to learn, I think, a little quicker because I wasn't fighting myself with my thoughts. But until, I had a friend that used to say, if and until I can recognize what the thoughts are, it's hard to cleanse them from my consciousness and help them heal. Because as we're talking about cleansing, what we're really meaning is, not pretending they're not there, but seeing what it is and, cleansing it of the negativity, cleansing it of the false belief. And then the idea then is to almost resurrect that thought from this negativity and say, what if I had a new thought coming into these lessons? I can't wait to learn. I'm so happy I'm growing in this area. Thank you, God, that I am learning this quickly and that I have amazing coaches to help me. Do you feel the difference in the energy that I'm saying? And of course, I wanted to talk about this too, because it's still, the beginning of the year, and it still feels like the beginning to me. And we're all, so many people are doing cleanses and working on their body and trying to eat healthy and, all these kinds of things. So I just want to lift that up for us, that it all starts in thought. It all starts in thought. So part of the journey, as you develop, as you grow, as you deepen, is this trust in spirit and all that is, that when you are ready, that conscious awareness arises and you're able to see, you're able to observe yourself, and you're able to deal with and heal, as I'm saying, cleanse this negative belief, this self-defeating thought or behavior. So think about that. Am I ready to have more soul freedom by going deeper? Because a couple of weeks ago, we talked about working with your thoughts, but that was a base level. This is next level stuff here. The other thing I thought was interesting, it happened at an event. I can't remember if I shared this on the show. I don't think I did, because I was so surprised the coach said it. I'm still taking it in. It was quite a compliment. So there was an event that I got to. It was one of the instructors' birthday, and the instructor was at the head. Somebody was by him, and then me. And then on the other side, there were 3 guys, and everybody that was there, except for me and this other person, were all black belts. And the instructor at the end of the table said, "Oh, well, I see who's on time, all the black belts and the 2 black belt minded that are heading for black belt." And I thought, ooh, I might be headed for a black belt. I wanted that. It's a desire. Maybe he sees something. Wow. So it was another affirmation of I'm moving in the right direction. But if I hadn't done the consciousness cleanser, I doubt I would have ever even heard that comment, because my consciousness would not have been prepared to receive it. So it's in the tiniest things that we start to see these areas of healing. It's usually not big once we're on the journey for a while. In the very beginning of the journey, I felt like I was kind of moving piles of dirt every time I had this new awareness. It was like I was operating. What do you call those things, Sean? Are they backhoes? Those big construction things with the bucket on the end? Are those backhoes?
I believe so, yeah.
When I was early on the journey, I would learn this thing, and I was like, there it goes in the backhoe. I would imagine this big backhoe coming in and going, "Oh, we're getting this out of here."
That's a good visualization, I think. That actually, I could see that working.
Yeah. Well, then after a while, it was no longer a backhoe; it was a shovel. and then it was like, okay. So we got the bigger stuff. Now we're getting deeper, right? Well, now it's been so long, and I have worked so much, and there's still so much more to go, friends. Please hear my humility in that. I don't think I'm above anybody. Maybe I'm in 7th grade and you're in 5th grade, but we're all in this together. Now I feel like I'm on one of those archaeological digs, and I've got this tiny little paintbrush or a little toothbrush, and I'm way down in my heart and soul. And so much of what I work, no one would ever know. It's non-resistance. It's acceptance. It's loving myself even in my foibles. It's the tiniest inner responses. Loving someone if they're in a place of, I had a friend recently who was just talking, having a really tough time. And I was really tired listening, but I was so guided. Just be present. They don't need you to do anything. And I just rested in my heart and thought, They're not asking me to fix them. They're asking me to be a sacred witness. And that's what I did. And that was such a healing for me. And that's what I mean. My internal dialogue was so different than it might have been just 4 or 5 years ago. And it is because the work continues just on a different level of that cleansing, moving away those parts that no longer serve us. And if you're thinking, dang, they're talking about release a lot. The answer is yes, we are. I have a friend who's a minister, and we often talk about our journey because he's been on a really deep journey, even longer than me, which is I don't meet many people in that category. So I always am inspired by his work and his level of personal awareness. And one day I called him and I said, my God, I'm still doing my forgiveness work. Can you believe it? I mean, I said, there's more to go. He goes, yeah, I know what you mean. I went to the bathroom yesterday. I can't believe I have to go today. And I go, well, that's crude, but true. That's crude, but true. He goes, yeah, without the release, toxins build up, man. You got to do it. And it's like, yeah. In other words, it becomes a way of life as you understand how thoughts, how consciousness, how your personality is developed and holds on to things. And yeah, so it's a constant, pretty constant. I mean, not every second of the day, you're not worried about it, but you are in a state of awareness on a fairly regular basis about what needs to be released for me to move forward. Because in any given day, we take on other thoughts. We take on other beliefs about ourselves that, as Charles Fillmore would say, are erroneous. And I know if you're listening, you might be saying, well, you still haven't said how. Well, there is one big key, but first I want to mention the process I went through, which is really the process, which is to, first of all, become aware of what the issue is, become aware of what the limiting belief or the karma is. If you keep having tension with somebody, that's a great indication that something needs to be cleared. If I'm having tension in myself about an activity or a conversation, there's work to be done. So first is identify the thought or the belief that needs work. Second is begin to observe, get in the observer self, observe what's happening when you're having the thought, observe yourself in the thought of the behavior, see if you can pick up what's going on within you. See if you can pick up what is happening, on the unspoken level. It's like you're seeing beyond the action and even beyond the words, and you're looking at the energy, you're looking at the thoughts, you're looking at even sometimes how does it feel in my body or where am I feeling it in my body? Then the work is to take into your time of meditation and forgive. One of my goals that I write down nearly every time I'm doing my goal process is forgive. I forgive on a daily basis. Forgiveness is the great consciousness cleanser because it releases toxic energy. But now you saw that in my process, I didn't jump to forgiveness. I wanted to see and understand where the belief was coming from. I wanted to see, is the belief true? Once I got the affirmation that belief was not true, I could work on letting it go. And so, yes, number one was forgive. Then it is, as I do the forgiveness work, if that thought comes up again, it's like I want to catch it. It's go, oh, there's that thought. Let's release that into the light. Let's love ourselves. Let's tell ourselves the new truth that we're replacing that false belief with. Yeah. You see how this becomes a much, much deeper process than, oh, yes, well, I'm going to say a few affirmations, or, oh, yes, I'm going to take 10 deep breaths a day. All those things are good things, and I suggest you do those very things. But without the deeper work, friends, you're going to keep repeating the same patterns over and over and over, because we all do. It's called being human. It's called, having a personality and karma that builds up, and old thoughts and beliefs about ourselves. So my encouragement to you, my friends, is to know that it doesn't matter if you're the Dalai Lama, if you're a baby, if you're 20 years old or 90 years old, you are going to be called to doing this work to cleanse and clear your consciousness so that you can move forward and experience the soul freedom God has for you. Depending on where you are in the journey, it might be a deeper level than it was 5 years ago. I hope it is. If you're new, you might feel like, oh, you're using that backhoe too, and you're going, you know what? I'm going to quit drinking in excess, or I'm going to quit smoking, or I'm going to, quit eating all these foods that are not good for me. That might be step one. And then as it develops, as your consciousness grows and expands, the next step might be, what was causing me to do those things? You see? So friends, my hope for you is that you will love yourself enough to begin to clear at the deeper level those old energies, those old false beliefs and behaviors, those erroneous beliefs, those false beliefs about yourself. Because I believe, dear friends, God's will for you is good, right? So release and replace that false belief with goodness, with wholeness, with truth, knowing God's will for you is good, and knowing that you're here to be a blessing and to be blessed. So my dear friends, thank you so much for joining me today. I honor you in Argentina, and blessings, Mimi. Thank you for joining us. And to all of you, thank you so, so much for your financial support, for your love, and for listening. And thanks for sharing it with a friend as you feel guided. Blessings on the journey, my dear friends, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. This podcast is made possible because of listeners and viewers just like you. If you would like to support the podcast with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head on over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Experience of the Soul podcast is copyright 2025 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved, and is produced by Sean Kilgore. A production of the Soulworks Group, Incorporated. Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The Soulworks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. Soulworks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience, with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the Soulworks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.